In this lesson, we're just going to look at audio effects and how to apply them and the different ways of applying and getting to effects, okay? So let's just try and take a rounded view of this. So where we come to first is the audio effects tab over here. And as you can see, there's so many different effects you can kind of click on and use, okay? And what I want you to do is really go through and experiment with these. Make sure you kind of understand what they do, or at least have a play with some of the presets. Now, whenever you click on one of these, remember, if you double click on the opening container, it will just give you a blanket preset. But if you drill down, you can actually get a preset that's already been created by somebody else that you can kind of use and experiment with. And that's a really good way of finding out what the effect does, okay, is by using the presets that are already created. Before you get to this, however, you do need to understand there's a few ways of setting up effects. In most modern DAWs, you've got what's called insert effects and send effects. Now, insert effects is when the effect is applied hard to the channel, and a send effect is when it's applied to an empty channel and then can be reapplied to all the other tracks. So as you can see here, I've just created a week 6 effects folder and I've just put 3 notes down. Now, if I was going to create an insert effect, all I'd do is click on this channel and I'd grab one of these effects and I'd drag it into the actual channel strip, okay? And that would be a hard effect, that would be an insert, okay? However, if I didn't want to do it, so it didn't take over 100% of the channel, I'd set it up as what's called a return or a send effect. Now, in Ableton, all of your send effects are down here. Where it says A return and then B delay, these are your returns, okay? And I think you can have up to 12 of these. And if you just right click, you can actually insert more returns, okay? So now I've got an A, a B, and a C. Now, rather than applying the effect to the channel or the instrument or the piece of audio, you now apply the effect to the actual return itself, okay? So I'd come up to here, I'd double click, and now it'd apply itself to there. And we'll do that in just a second, but first we're just going to kind of run through a few different things. Now, what I have here is just 3 notes. Let me just play this for you without any effects being applied. Very, very simple, and this is a really good way of finding out what an effect does. Just have a couple of long notes playing around on a loop. So let's start by adding what's called delay. Now, in one of the previous lessons, you would have seen me click on this button here where it says D, and this means delay, but it's not really the same as a delay effect. It's what's kind of known as an ADT, automatic double tracking, okay? So it allows you to offset the delay of the actual sound. So for instance, now I've got this extra column, and if I close that, you'll see it collapse itself. I can offset when it's meant to play. Let me just click on this so you can see when it's meant to play. I can offset when it's meant to play with milliseconds. So let me just offset it by quite a large amount, say 200 milliseconds, and then press play again. And you'll notice that the note won't play exactly where it comes in now. Okay, and that's really good. So if you were doing some automatic double tracking, what you would do is you'd click on this track here and you'd duplicate it. So right click, press duplicate, and now you've got 2 tracks. One of the tracks you'd set, say 0, so let's just set this to 0, and the other one you'd offset it, say by 100 or 230. Now both tracks play, but you've got what's called an automatic double tracking situation going on. So here we go, let me play it again. Another thing you do, because you find this a lot on acoustic guitars, is you can actually pan them left and right. So for instance, the one that's got the little bit of delay on it, we'll grab this center one and we'll drag it all the way to the left speaker, and we'll drag this one all the way to the right speaker, and now you should be able to hear that a lot more clearer. Okay, so let me just undo that. So there's the first one that I wanted to show you. There we go, turn that off, turn that off. So automatic double tracking, that's how you get that delay bit there. So now next, let's just look at applying it via a return. So what you're going to notice here is I've got 3 of these that say INF, infinity 0, that is, that's infinity no sound basically. That means it's basically turned off. And each one of these applies itself to a different return. So if I click on it, it should tell me this is for return A. If I click on this one, this is for return B. If I click on this one, this is for return C, okay? So if I want to add more, let me just do another one. So we'll add a return D. So right click, add a return track. We're up to D. Now you see that there's 4 returns. D, and then if I click again, B, and then A, okay? So let's just start with this A. I always set my reverbs up on my return track A, okay? So we'll click on this. We can see that the actual channel is empty, so there is no reverb applied to this. So let's come up to our audio effects and let's go and grab a reverb. So reverb, where are you? There you are. So I'm just going to open this, toggle it down, and I'm going to find something that's quite big so we can really hear it. So let's go for, let's try special. A nice big stadium. So double click. Now, as you can see, because I've got this one selected, it's now come down onto the A. You can see I've got my stadium reverb applied. If I press play now on this track, nothing will happen. And the reason for that is because of this INF. That's basically saying to me it's turned off. So let's make sure we've got the stadium selected, which is the A, and let's click and drag upwards and we're going to turn it on. We're going to turn it on massively so you can hear this. And that's really nice, but it's a bit overpowering, so let's just bring it down just so it's a bit subtle, a bit more subtle. Fantastic. So we've got complete control, and if we wanted to add that same effect to, say, another channel, say the audio, you'll notice that we have those 4 same boxes. So now we can just turn it up on this one as well, and now we're adding this same effect to both channels, which is really awesome. Now we've got our reverb, and once again, if we want to rename this, we can right click and rename. We're just going to call this reverb, just so we are completely clear about what that is. Now let's come down to our B track. So onto our B, and this time I like to select this one as my delay. B track is generally my delay. So let's come in, let's find the delay, which should be up here somewhere. Ping pong delay, there we go. So let's drill down into some ping pong delay. Let's go for this one, double click. Now once again, we've got it turned off, so nothing will happen. So all we need to do is turn it on. We'll turn it to the maximum and we'll hear what this sounds like. Okay, so let's try that a little bit more subtle. So we'll come over to our one here, we'll just turn it up a little bit, and then we'll just press play again and see what happens this time. And that's nice, that's a bit more subtle. If for some reason you didn't like what you've applied here, all you do is come down to this channel here, select the ping pong and delete it. Now, one thing I've noticed with this, if I double click here, because it's an effect, it keeps adding to it. So if I double click on this one, you'll notice that now I've got 2 ping pongs. So if you do decide that you don't want one, you do have to come down here and you have to delete it. Okay, it's not like the instrument tracks where you can only have 1 instrument track on there, unless it's a rack, of course. Okay, so that's how you do send effects. Now let's look at inserts. So let me turn off these send effects and let me select my channel. Now, with audio effects, they drop themselves at the end of the chain, okay? So when we get to MIDI effects in just a second, MIDI effects apply themselves to the beginning of the chain and audio effects apply themselves to the end of the chain, okay? This is a very deliberate thing inside of Ableton. So let's do the same thing. Let's go, this time, let's grab some kind of distortion. So what kind of distortions have we got here? An overdrive, there we go. So let's grab this overdrive and double click. And there you go, now you can notice that it's just applied itself to the end here. Now, we don't have as much control in terms of coming over here and using the affinity dials. What we have instead is this wet-dry mix. When it's set to 100%, that's obviously going to be the maximum, and then we can pull it down. And most of these effects have that, okay? So let's try this one with the distortion. Let's pull it down. So this one here was our problem area. not the greatest effect. So if we don't want it, same again, if you double click on another one, it will add it to the chain, allowing you to kind of chain these things all together. If you don't want it, you have to select the header and just press delete, okay? Let's just try one more effect before I give you guys the go ahead to go on with yours. Now let's try this auto pan. Auto pan is quite a nice filtering effect that pans between the left and the right speakers. So let's see how this one works out for us. Around the head. So that's quite nice. So you get the sense that it's going around. And don't forget, if you are creating these, you can actually just put as many of these in as you want. So if you've got an auto pan with, say, I don't know, let's go some kind of phaser, that might be quite nice. Let's go this one here and see how they sound together. So you can chain as many of these things together as you want, as much as your CPU or your computer processing can allow. Okay, so your mission for this lesson is very, very simple. I want you to have a go at using those three styles of effects. So we have our return effects that apply to the individual channels. We have our insert effects that apply to the channel itself. And then we have this delay area where we can use it for doubling up tracks, automatic double tracking. That's your mission, and don't be afraid to have a play with all of these. See what they do, have a look at the presets, and just get familiar. Okay, and I'll see you in the next lesson.